You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Hello, everybody, all the single people and definitely the couples tonight, because this episode is going to be for all those little married folks out there, all the people in relationships, all the people that are in love, all the people that think they're in love, all the people that don't realize the other person doesn't love them, but they don't realize it yet. It happens. So this is all of that is for you tonight, but it's going to be a positive spin. It's not going to be the negative, because this episode is how to have a flourishing, loving, amazing relationship. Have you guys ever had, let me introduce, my bad. We have Bruce Reynolds all the way down, Brandi Anders, and Jodi, just say it.
Cacioppo.
Cacioppo. My name's Ben Keech, and we have all been in relationships, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
1 or 2 or 3.
Here and there. Have you guys been in love before? You guys
Yes.
say, okay, all right. What happened? What?
We're doing the positive. We're flourishing. we're speaking about the flourishing.
So we're not going to get into what happened wrong. Then we're going to talk about, okay, so when it was good, why was it good?
Trust.
You trusted her?
Yeah.
She trusted you?
I mean, when you put somebody, I was married for 12 years.
Okay.
When you put somebody at that level, when things are good, you trust that person with your life and with, even emotional security, financial security. I mean, you put a lot of faith in somebody when things are good.
How many years were flourishing of the 12? I can tell her to show her.
So I met my ex-wife when I was 11 online.
Oh.
So I knew my
Wait, say that again?
I was 11 years old when I met my ex-wife.
Got it.
No, I met her online. She lived up here and I lived in Florida and we had a mutual friend.
You meet people 11 years old, meet people they're dating. I'm so confused. I just got a weird visual that was really bad. 11-year-old swiping left and right. Is this a thing?
You never had America Online and
I am just.
How old was she?
She was 12. I mean, we were the same age.
You're online? That's crazy. Yeah.
So what's the age range there? Like 15 to 8?
I mean, it was a chance thing, and we chatted back and forth and never really thought anything would come of it. And we met.
What do you talk about? What do 11-years talk about in dating apps?
It wasn't a dating. It was like AOL, and we had a mutual friend that connected us.
Okay, so this
so
is
you
MySpace.
when did you connect?
Well, when we were 18.
So you talked from 11 to 18?
On and off. I mean, as friends. Nothing. And
But it was like email? You're emailing each other back?
AOL.
AOL. Messaging. The messaging.
You must really like that to wait for all that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm doing the wrong episode. I want to know more about this stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a little different, right? It's kind of like meeting with somebody on a dating app, but over a longer term. We kind of.
It was like pen pals back in the day.
Yeah, and we talked on and off for years, and we finally got to a point where we were, of age, and we were like, hey, let's meet. And so we met, and things were rocky at first, and we flew back and forth a couple times.
Wait, how far were you guys?
I'm from South Florida originally.
And where was she?
Up here.
Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm understanding this. So Bruce is 11. He meets a 12-year-old. The 12-year-old lives in Kansas City. The 11-year-old lives in South Florida. We're like doing AOL weird communications where there's like dial-ups and interesting noises. You do this all the way to 18. Now you're of age. We're going to meet each other. And so why was it rocky at first?
Like at 18, was it MySpace by that time?
No, MySpace wasn't a thing.
What?
MySpace was starting to be a thing around that time. No, I mean, we met, and it was just weird. You teenagers, but we kept talking and stayed connected. And
So my question for you is, when you're talking to this woman that's up here,
She was a girl.
A girl.
Yeah, let's
A
be
girl.
clear.
Did you continue to have like girlfriends in the high school?
we both did. I mean,
Okay.
we both lived the high school.
Okay, good.
She had relationships. Like, I'm friends. Each of us stayed with like her ex before we were married.
Okay.
When did you guys become boyfriend girlfriend?
You moved up here when?
Well, I didn't move up here. She moved down there.
Okay.
You're up here now, though.
Yeah, I am. But because she moved down there when she was like 20, 21.
Gotcha.
And I was finishing school, and that was kind of the deal. I was like, I'm not going anywhere for a couple years. And I kind of knew going into it, her grandparents were elderly, and she had better ties to her family than I did. And she's like, look, if I move down here, like, you've got to at least entertain the thought of moving back home with me. She's like, my grandparents are older. I want to spend time with them. And so that was kind of the discussion. I wanted out of South Florida. Like, it kind of worked its way that she lived down there for a couple of years. We got married and ended up here. I kind of wanted a fresh start, so I was kind of okay with it.
So on the topic of flourishing relationships, and here we have two people who've known each other for some time. There's a lot of things. I mean, that's a length of time, which I would think, did that work to your benefit? I'm assuming.
It works to your benefit or not, right? When you're with somebody for a long time, you know their triggers. You know a lot about somebody. You know what's gonna make them happy, what's gonna make them sad. Where it works to your disadvantages is if things are bad. You can sometimes, those triggers can become weapons in relationships. So that there were a lot of good things. I mean, we've known each other most of our adult lives. We're still even
In half your childhood.
Yeah, I mean,
Important parts of your childhood.
Yeah.
Half of your life, period.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like being married for that period of time in a lot of ways because you get to know somebody on that level. So my perspective is a lot different than other people.
Have you been in a relationship of any substance since her?
I've been in a couple that have been like 6 months.
So in those, I'm going to get to Brandi after this question. What was flourishing about that? What was the
connection? There was a good connection between us.
Yeah.
Like we were similar in how we approached things. We, valued each other. There weren't any fights or anything. Like generally, if you have somebody's back, I think you kind of need that in a relationship. And I think that's a positive aspect of a relationship. Like if you are genuine with somebody,
right? Brandi, what would you say in your experiences makes or creates a flourishing relationship? What needs to be there for that to happen?
So for me, it would be, you gotta, I guess, want to level up for that other person. Like, you bring out the best in each other, and then you're also supportive. Even on things you don't agree on, you've got to support them, right? So I think having that person that supports you, that also helps you level up to be the better you, you bring out the best in each other. I want my best friend, and
Right.
I think when you look for your best friend, everything else will fall into place. And I've met some great people. I have not met anyone that I want to spend the rest of my life with, but I've met some great people. Some of them have become really good friends, and some of them I've introduced to my girlfriends, and actually 2 of them got married.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Because I knew that they were a perfect fit. Like, they would complement each other
Right.
to the fullest. So I think to flourish in a relationship, you have to complement each other, and you have to always date. Everybody stops dating once you're together, and then it just goes to the wayside. You get wrapped up in life and kids and everything else, and you stop dating each other. You stop doing the little things that mean the most.
Let me ask you a question about dating and continuing to date. So then what would that, so you've been married to someone for 7 years. What would be an ideal situation on what it would look like in a relationship that's been going for a while for them to continue to date? Like more specifically, I could say go out to eat, go to a movie, go do stuff, but what else, what adds something special to the dynamic for two people who have been around forever that makes it more tangible or unique, like the dating experience, even though
Well,
you're
if you
married?
look at it, like the older people that have been together forever, okay, they still sit at the table and eat dinner together.
Right,
They still hold hands everywhere they go.
right,
He still opens the door for her.
right,
He still is chasing her.
yes, right,
When she's getting ready, he's still smacking her butt.
right,
He's still kissing her lips while she's trying to put on her lipstick. It's the little things
right,
that keep it going and that keep you dating.
right,
And there's consistency. Like, they might go every Friday to the same restaurant. And we've all seen that little video where the guy's sitting there every anniversary with his wife picture at the same restaurant, eating alone because she's in heaven. He's still dating her.
right. Oh, right.
So I think if you continue to chase them and to date them and to be consistent, like you said, and all, and not just the men, the women too, because there's things we do that sometimes we stop doing as well.
Well,
I mean,
like what?
Like get up and make your coffee for you, or pack your lunch for you, or
Right.
the little things. that
Yeah.
I think mean a lot.
Yeah.
So I think when you stop doing those little things and you stop chasing each other and you stop, doing the things that matter that you did to get them, then you stop flourishing.
Right. No, that's good. Jodi, and what would you say? What needs to happen? We need the trust. We need the things that Bruce was talking about. Continue to date. What would you say is necessary to have a flourishing relationship? You'd want for your son. You'd want for yourself.
I think to continue to grow, because I know with my marriage, what happened is I continue to grow because I did other things. Like I was not the woman he met in my 30s. I went from LPN to ADN to BSN to joining the Army to becoming an Army officer. And he was still an Army officer and a retiree, but he never grew with me. And we grew apart, especially after the kids left and they were doing their own life. And I was chasing dreams and he didn't chase me. He just let me do what I needed to do. But really that kind of hindered our marriage. And if I had to go back and do it again, I would have not left, because I don't know if I left on a high note of I'm grown and I've outgrown him, because I gave him the opportunity. I said, come do things with me, because I know what my love language is time. Just spend time with me.
Right.
I mean, my love language is being filled right now, just being with people.
Right.
That's my love language, and I begged him for his time, and he wouldn't. You know what I mean? And those are the things, when your spouse is communication, when your spouse is asking for something, it doesn't have to be a spouse or your partner or whatever is asking for something, listen, because that means they're going to go find it somewhere else. And I never went and found it anywhere else. I just decided for me to continue to grow as a human, I can stay right here and be compliant.
Solo, basically.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I would tell him that. I would say, there's nothing worse than being with someone and being alone.
But
Right.
you'd be complacent and
Well,
bitter.
well,
Because I became that.
Yes.
You become complacent and bitter because they don't want to grow with you,
Right.
or they don't want to support you and be there for you in your growth.
Right.
So you find yourself falling back.
Right.
You find yourself not trying as much. So to stay there, you would have been given up.
Yeah.
And you would have become very
Well, and this is where I think I can agree with both of you. Like, I married at 22. I grew a lot from 22 to 34.
Oh, absolutely.
I naturally I grew a lot, and the way that I was growing was not compatible with where I felt like she was.
Mm-hmm.
And
In what way?
on a lot of levels, like in that time I went and I got, my first degree,
Mm-hmm.
which, given I was already working on that a good portion of the way through that before she moved down there, I went and got a second degree. Like, I pushed myself. I was an air traffic controller for a little bit. Like, I was pushing myself to get to a point where I was doing better. And a lot of me felt like she wasn't trying to do the
She
same
was
thing.
complacent.
I-
She was just,
Yeah.
I would say though, like I agree, and I know you were mentioning some of your things as well. Like I agree with those aspects of growing, but I guess I just kind of come down to the point of like what you were talking about at the time is like you get to a point where you've been around someone for so long that you know them, and then one or both people become complacent. The person isn't interesting to you, or you're just like, whatever, it doesn't matter, who cares? And you become so wrapped up in this mundane type of lifestyle. So I just think like for a flourishing relationship and like always dating it, but like you have to engage in conversation. You have to like, there has to be something about them that's interesting. There has to be things, maybe it's new things you do. It is how you grow in your career. It's how you grow in your life with your kids and things. But boy, there has to be something that you could go meet 5 guys or girls on a dating app, and I've known you for this long, but I'm going to be more exciting. I'm going to like keep it like just the way I used to do. Like if for me, it's like, I wish you could just ask a question. Like, are you going to still be motivated to do the things you're going to do the first year of date? You're going to be great. Like, we're going to kiss, we're going to do these things. It's going to be lovey. It's going to be it's going to be this, but that's not the deal. Like, I can get that with anybody for a year.
but doesn't it go back to, because this was me. We were having this discussion the other day, or no, even at the single mingle thing.
Yeah.
Was, why don't you ask people up front where they align with certain things, and you got to have these common ground so you can have these conversations. And one guy's like, well, I don't care if I have anything in common with them. And I said, really? Because I do. And we were having that conversation. I said, for me, it's important, one, your political views. That's important if we're dating, because I need to be aligned. Your belief. If you don't believe in Christ, obviously we're not going to align. I don't necessarily mean you have to go sit there 5-6 days a week, but at some point we have to align on that, right? Our family values, you know.
Right.
There's things that you need to align on that I think a majority of us as adults, we want to put up blinders and we want to look for all the fun and the good stuff. And then down the road, 20 years, you have nothing in common.
Well,
you raised your kids, they're gone.
Or the things that aren't in common start creating wedges because you ignored them early on.
well,
I just had a friend say that to me. He said, my wife just told me she is liberal. And he goes, if I would have known that, I told her if I would have known that, I would have never married you.
Well,
Because now I have to go and I have to hide in my office when I want to watch news. But for him, it's
Important.
It's important because now he can't be his own self in his own home.
Well, he can if he's a man. If it's his house.
Well, the thing is, I'll give you an opinion. Like values, all of that goes to values, right? Like, you know, and I was young and in love, right? Like some of the value stuff, it came out over time that we just had different
that's true.
philosophies over things because we were young when we were married. But values, like all of the political stuff, the religious stuff, like all that goes to values and how you see things, how you handle situations. Like, I think it's important to flush that stuff out. And you have to have some kind of chemistry in that regard in order for the relationship to be successful, I think.
It's nice when that stuff lines up. It definitely makes things better, easier.
You know, you want to be compatible with the person you're with.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe when I met my my husband, because I've had two.
I've
It's
had
okay.
to too.
Yeah, but
I haven't had any.
when I was in my 30s, he was my saving grace, though, because I was wild in my 20s, raising some kids, bartending, and without him, and I told him that. I said, I would not be the woman I am today if it wasn't for you, because I grew into him, you know what I mean, because of who he was, whether it's a father figure or not. I mean, we still had passion and compassion, you know, all of that kind of stuff, but I also outgrew him, because that's going to be my problem now. I got to find a man that I can grow into, because I'm continuing growing.
But you not grow into. You need to find a man that's willing to support you and be there with you as you guys grow together, because obviously you're just not with the man you grow into.
Right.
And that's one thing I had to learn about myself. I always picked the men that I could push them to be driven, but I was actually the driven one, and then they ran with it and flourished. But I was the driven one. They were not the driven ones. And none of them had a good, healthy relationship with their family or anything. So I always looked to someone that I could heal and I could mend and I could nurture and I could help flourish. And in all reality, I need someone that's going to challenge me like I am them.
Right.
I need someone that's going to...
That's a good point.
Yeah, so...
Talking about healthy relationships, challenge each other.
You don't want to go back to what you had that didn't...
And you know, when I think about him, sometimes I miss us, but at the same time, emotionally, I know we weren't compatible now, and I know how much growth I've done emotionally. There's no way we'll ever be compatible. But I'm his friend.
On the subject of like relationships that work well, though, like some of it is you have to look at yourself and what worked in your previous relationship. There are certain things now that I know coming out of my marriage dating. I'm like, well, that didn't work in my last relationship. If I see, you know, X, Y, Z, or I see certain behaviors or traits, I'm like, that's probably not going to work for me now. So I've at least taken some time, you know, since I've been divorced, to look at like things that I may have had an issue with or that didn't mesh well in the past, and I'm like, okay, if I want a healthy relationship, those things need to align.
Right. I've seen in like men, when they're in their feminine, have the inability to say the thing that needs to be said to their female. So basically they appease, they try to say that they tippy-toe, they're in this place where sometimes, you know, it's easy if I were to say, like, you need to put your man in his place. Like, he's out of line. Like every female would nod her head to that. Yeah, exactly.
No,
right.
not all of us would.
No, I know. Right. Right. But when you say, like, you know, if a female's off in something, whatever, I've been surprised that how many females they don't want their man, they want it to be loving. They want it to come from the right place. But if they're off, they're okay with someone telling them that. But men, because we're in this little wussy society where everybody, even in like youth sports, we've talked about this, like just how like soft these coaches are. Like they literally pamper these little children, and it's horrendous because, well, we don't want to hurt their feelings. No,
well, we don't have to earn anything anymore.
Right.
Everybody wants it given to them, and they want what they want. No one wants to have to earn anything.
Right.
And we start with the kids.
Everybody gets a trophy, a participation trophy.
There has to be a place where we have to be willing to say the difficult things, and we have to. There's a place that you get where you think something, and you want to say it, but you're too scared to say it. Mm-hmm. Just push through and say it out of love, out of respect, not in a bad manner, but. I mean, that's where obviously people get in trouble. We have to, as a society, start pushing that envelope to say the difficult things. And I'm talking about in a relationship. I'm talking about appropriately. I'm not talking about going on, to start calling out people and being a jerk about it. I'm talking about, people that we love and care about. Because if you don't do that, there's not going to be growth. Right. Sometimes the best way to grow is for someone who loves and cares about us to actually say the thing we need. And I've say the thing we need to hear, but they're like, hey, I'm not trying to offend you. I was like, tell me, just lay it on me. I need to know. And I've had opportunities for growth for myself by friends and people say, look, here's where I think you're at. Here's what I think you're on. I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
What's so sad though, is I think sometimes when we do big things like me leaving him was hard because I chose to leave. And I told him, I said, you need to watch Eat, Pray, Love and you'll understand me. And he watched it. It's like, oh, that's childhood trauma. I was like, no, there's a deep-rooted, deep down in my soul, I know I have to go. My time here is done. And so through that, he's grown and he's a better man for it, even though I had to leave.
Why? Why is he a better man for it?
He found God, for one. And I paid him to go to church with me.
Somebody.
And he found God.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he did a lot of self-reflection of where he messed up. Because, and I do believe he's a better man for it.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. So, because of that hurt that I...
Yeah, Satan's spawn is not a better man. He's just Satan's spawn.
Is he?
It's a tough label to shake. Yeah, it does.
I mean, if the shoe fit.
Yeah.
Well...
And but I think you're right. Like, sometimes it's hard to hear the truth, but there's also... I've had people say, guy friends now say like, hey, you need to kind of calm down that you get a little attitude, and versus why do you got to be a fucking bitch when you don't agree with something? So there's two different ways you can say stuff. You're going to get the same reaction. I'm going to meet energy. That's
right.
I mean, if you come at me just being hateful and all because I'm having a rough day versus, hey, you need to calm down. You obviously had something going on today. There's a way to say it. But yeah, we all need to hear it.
Well, back to the healthy relationship part that we kind of started with, right? Though, like how you present
Bruce
stuff.
keeps us in line.
Well, how you present stuff is important.
It is.
But part of a healthy relationship is having the emotional intelligence to understand your partner and how to present stuff, right? So that the conversations are productive. When you go way off the rails,
start cussing and
you go sideways, like that's your relationship is going to reflect that behavior.
And I think we talked a little bit about my friend that I have right now. I have a really good friend, and
yeah, we talked about him.
But we're not going to go all out with him. But what I was going to say is, I told it up front.
That's you.
Yeah, I told up front that let's be in the present moment right now. Let's don't think futuristic. Let's enjoy each other right now for what we have as a friendship and see where it grows. Because I don't know what's going to happen. But I can tell you, I know I'm good wife material. Shit, I did it for a long time, for almost, 2.5 decades. But also, I don't want to be back in that role right now.
But there is a problem with living in the present moment if that present moment is on a path that two people...
You're not equally aligned. You're going two separate paths.
Yeah, so you can be in a good moment, and we all have, and there's nothing wrong with that. Both people agree. You can be in that good friendship moment or that whatever that is, but you live day by day. You live in the moment, but I also want to know: are we going to the same goal? Are we going to the same place? If we are, then we can stay in that. But if we're not, and that's where I think sometimes men can mislead, if they are just looking for sex, or if they're looking for a quick fix, or they're not looking, just you probably need to say like, I'm not looking for a relationship.
But I have to laugh some because everybody talks about men, but I have girlfriends that are worse than men. I mean, I literally have girlfriends that have taken the role of a man to a whole new level.
Mm.
And I'm
Right.
just like, well, like the sex talk. I mean, I know one that she was, and I wouldn't even say she's my girlfriend. She's just somebody, and I know I had to separate myself from her because I can't even align with that.
Right.
But, I mean, right away, she would jump straight into the sex talk and all like that. And then she got mad if they didn't want to take her out again or having more conversation with her. And I'm like, well, you just gave them what they wanted, and you just basically put yourself out there as a mattress to sleep on real quick, like an overnight stay.
Right.
So, and then I have one that doesn't want the emotional. I mean, she's like a lot of guys are. She's just like, "Hi, want to meet up?" Yeah.
Right.
I mean, she's very short and brute-like, and so I mean, I laugh because I think there's guys and girls that are at the same level with the rudeness, or however you want to call it.
I just think there's more. I just think there's more guys generally in that place. There's definitely women in that place too, but I think there's more guys that.
I think we notice more guys that way because our expectation of men are
Probably,
different, right?
Right.
You don't really look for a woman that carries herself that way.
Well, and what I see is like women that, use sex manipulatively to change the dynamic of what's going on. So you're going on, a handful of dates, you're in a good place, and then, they want to have sex or they're whatever, and it's like, you as a guy know that's probably going to change everything, like the Seinfeld episode. They know it too, but their motives may be to latch on her now since that's happened. Well, this is what this means. It may not mean that to him. He just knows you're willing, and he's jumping on it. He's opportunistic. He may not even do anything wrong at all. So it's both sides can use sex in ways that
No, you're right.
can be to their own self-serving.
I've seen a girl do it, and she would threaten them. She would threaten them.
After, because
after
you did
she had
that.
it,
You did this. Right?
You owe me this because we slept together or else.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I got your pictures you sent me. I will show them to everyone.
Yeah.
Or,
Really? That's
Yeah.
horrible.
So I say
That's
I've
not
seen
healthy.
it the other
That's-
way too, which you don't
For sure.
expect. And so there's just as many nasty women.
So these are things that don't happen in a flourishing relationship.
No, that should not happen.
This is how you don't flourish.
Well, for sure,
We're
stay
gonna-
away from that.
We're gonna wrap up this episode, and all the different directions that it went. We appreciate you tuning in. Stay married, right? Stay married.
Work on your relationship.
Yes, do the things that it takes, and I think on the show notes you're gonna see everybody's name here. You're gonna see their Instagram. If there's something that connected with you, follow them on Instagram. Leave them a comment. All of that information will be there for you to access. Yes, as long as you're nice and appropriate and all the things. But thanks for tuning in. We will see you soon. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.